We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prayer by Tom Cole. See you sitting out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Lord, we thank you that we can be here tonight, that we have the freedom. We thank you for the soldiers that fought in many wars, that we have the freedom for this United States, that our flag still stands proud and that we can serve here today. We thank you for the council and Ms. Mayor for all that they do for this city. They're able to use their abilities to run to make this city a better place. Thank you that we're allowed to come here and share our opinions, right or wrong or indifference. We get the freedom to do so, and that we can work together to make Libby a greater place together. Bless this meeting this day with good ears to listen, slow to speak, quick to respond to the truth, and to hold disagreements bound. That this would be a meeting productive and run well. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen. Thank you. A roll call, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Councilor Burke.
Here.
Councilor Berger.
Here.
Councilor Ian Smith.
Here.
Councilor Kristen Smith.
Here.
Councilor Taylor.
Here.
Councilor Zimmerman.
Here.
Roll call is complete, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Welcome everyone here tonight, those who are online. I don't actually have any announcements. Does anyone else have some announcements, if something I've forgotten? Okay. Then we'll move on to approval of the minutes from regular council meeting 1658 on August 5th, meeting 1659 on August 19th, meeting 1660 on September 3rd, and the public hearing also held on September 3rd.
Make a motion we approve meetings 1658, 1659, 1660, and public hearing on September 3rd.
I wasn't here for September 3rd, so I'll abstain from that part.
Okay. Are there any corrections or additions for any of those 4 meetings? Okay. And are there any public comments for those concerning the minutes of those 4 meetings?
I second.
Oh, you did. Sorry, didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Any public comments regarding those 4 sets of minutes? Okay. So all in favor of approval of those council minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried. Minutes are approved. I'll go on to committee reports. Mr. Sykes for committee and city administrator.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. We got the building report for July and August. For the month of July, we sold 8 building permits for all residential. We had 5 new roofs, 1 new building, 1 carport, and 1 deck. For August, we had 2 new buildings go in. So thus far through August, we pulled in $5,185 into the building program. Been trying to figure out how to give you an accurate portrayal of how the city's doing over the last few years. So I crunched a bit of the data and found out that the 4-year average through July and August, we should be at $4,970. So we're at $5,185. We're actually ahead of average for fiscal years 22, 23, 24, and then including this year. One thing on the lead service line survey, what's happened now is we went through all the mail outs that we had. We were able to go through all the as-built that we have. We were able to go through all the permits from the last years. So all we have left now is I've got a book that the streets department has with lead gooseneck removals going back to 1986 through 1997. I'll go through, document that. The rest of it's going to be a predictive model, because if I know what half of Montana Avenue is, but we're missing a 2-block section where we didn't have responses, I can go off of Chuck Tom doing repairs, former employees, and I can predict that if everything else is galvanized, that will be a galvanized steel. We'll just have to document that we have unknown whether there's a lead gooseneck on it or not. So we got about 400 properties left, 400 to 500, and that should be submitted in the next week and a half. Right after that, I'll be dealing with the new permitting for our open cut mine out on Pipe Creek Road. And that's what I have going on right now, Madam Mayor and Council.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes.
How many lead service lines have we identified?
Actually, Libby has never had lead lines in here. So basically, we already understand that, but we have to identify as many lead goosenecks as we can. It's not a requirement now, but I just foresee it within the next 10 to 15 years that it's going to become a requirement. So the more work we can do now, it'll save us later, because the only way to do it would be to figure out the volume of the line from the lead gooseneck in, and we'd have to test every single faucet for that and send it out for lead testing, or we'd have to dig up all the mains to every service to figure out whether it's a lead gooseneck.
Any other questions for Mr. Sykes? I know that Mr. Williams has a comment.
Just good evening, Council and Madam Mayor. So I just want to give an update on the sewer main replacement. That's going to be starting tomorrow. So TCI was awarded the contract. I'm sure you probably have got some complaints or heard about some sand that has been staged for these projects. So there's going to be the Flower Street off Nevada. There's going to be an alley about 300 feet behind Johnny's from 10th Street to the highway. There's a section of California from 10th Street to the highway, and then there is 5th Street between Montana and Louisiana. So they're going to be starting tomorrow. That's on the Flower Street portion. They will then move to 5th Street. If they're able to free up another crew here in the next week, then they'll jump right into the alley there behind Johnny's. That's section between 10th Street and Highway 2, and then they'll wrap it up with California. So we're just waiting for the DOT permitting to get out on the highway, because you got to go out into the barrel out in the middle of the highway. So we're just waiting for that response back from them. Make sure everything's all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So just want to give an update on that and the progress moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Fire report.
Yes. Libby Volunteer Fire Department responded to 5 calls in the month of August 2024. 1 call in the city, 4 calls in the rural fire district, 2 grass wildlands, 1 mutual aid with ambulance, 1 false alarm, 1 miscellaneous. Gives them a total of 56 calls in 2024. They also still have crews working on painting the hydrants, and the concrete in front of the hall is still in progress. That's all.
Okay, thank you. You're not working on any ordinances at the moment, correct? No. And lights, streets, and sidewalks still waiting on our engineer for traffic information?
Correct.
Anything else regarding that committee?
Not that I'm aware of at this moment. I'm just going to be taking that one over for Mr. Beach.
Okay. Have you had a chance to have a meeting with
your...
Uh,
With Leanne today, we went over the particular. She's going to approach the people here north with our proposal and then bring it forward to council.
Okay. Sewer, water?
Nothing new to report at this time.
Zoning commission?
The zoning commission met last Monday and recommended to the council that they annex and zone the property just across the way there, the Clark property. But they were reticent to rezone the Asa Wood property due to insufficient information. So that will come back to the zoning committee at some point.
Okay. Finance, Leanne?
Not tonight.
No, nothing tonight. No wildlife?
No.
And I know there was a meeting of the city, county board of health. They were in Eureka, and I understand they had some technical issues.
Yes, unfortunately there was a couple days where the county was suffering badly from lack of internet and phone. Once they got it up and running, about half hour after it started, I was finally able to connect to the meeting. They took action on a variance request for the Dirty Shame up in the Yak. It was just a distance that was an updated system, and it was closer than the old system, and so they granted a variance request. They went through their strategic plan, the department's strategic plan. They're working on it. It's still in draft form. each of the programs, provided their updates and summaries, 0 to 5, vaccines, Credible Minds, which is, I don't know if anyone's logged into it, but it's a really cool app that they've participated in. And then there was an update on the animal shelter, because there were delays in the everybody being able to get online. They did not take action on the increase in fees, but I came in right around that time, and the cooperation with, since Tobacco Valley was not operating anymore, this one down here seems to be going well, but they are going to increase the fees, the animal shelter fees. And then there was an introduction of a group event policy for things that are happening like at Happy's Inn and Abeyance Bay. Those are venues that are attracting a lot of vehicular traffic and people, and it's right on the highway, and so there's just a lot of concerns about permitting, human waste, solid waste, you know, camping just willy-nilly, and so there's effort to put some sidebars on that for those folks, just for safety reasons. And then that's about it.
Thank you. Tony's not here for Amy Parks District. Mr. Zimmerman, with the new council person, you were doing some slight shifting of committees?
Yes. With Gary Beach being gone, he was chair of the budget finance. Kristen Smith said she would move over, and Gail Berger can then take her spot on the budget finance. Down on light streets and sidewalks, Gary was chair of that. I will move up and take chair on that, and Gail Berger can then take my spot there. On the water sewer committee, Gary had a spot there. We'll have Gail Berger sit in on that, and the same with wildlife.
Okay.
We'll have Gail sit on that. So.
Is that agreeable with you, or would you like to? Is that agreeable with you, or would you like to, at a later time, potentially ask for some other shifting? That's the end of the committee reports. Brings us to public comments on non-agenda items. For those of you in the audience, if you would like to make comments on items not on the agenda, step to the podium. You state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes to make your comment. So is there public comments? Mr. Orr?
Madam Mayor and Council and DC Orr, I reside at 1117 Nevada Avenue. 4 times I've stood up here and requested a spot on the agenda to correct a deficiency in your policy. It's wrong for me to ask the mayor for permission to get on the agenda. The council is the legislative body. It's a legislative agenda. It's your business, not hers. That's where you guys are making a mistake. And when the mayor will not let a council person put something on the agenda, the mayor is violating the Constitution also. The mayor is also hiding stuff that should be transparent. Now, your new council person can't even take action until she has sworn her oath of office. That's how important your oath of office is. When I tell you that you are violating the Constitution, you're violating your city charter, you're violating your council rules and procedures, you guys are violating your oath of office. None of you have cared enough to request that I be put on the agenda. I'm not going to ask the mayor again. The mayor is not going to put me on the agenda. The mayor shouldn't be in that position anyway. It is a legislative agenda. You guys if you care about your integrity, if you care about your oath of office, I could spend a little time educating you on why, like your council rules and procedures says the mayor arranges the agenda. That came out of a discussion with Dan Clark of the local government center. And Dan Clark said the mayor does not set the agenda. She cannot. She has very limited legislative duties. She breaks a tie. That's what she does. That's in your charter. You guys have been sitting here, some of you, for years, and you don't even know the basics of government. That's discouraging, I guess, is how I would say that. But the fact that none of you care enough about your oath of office to take action on this is more than discouraging. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comments on items not on the agenda? Any other comments not on the agenda? Okay, then we'll move on. We do have one old business item. That is Department of Labor and Industry banner program. Janelle is here. Is there any anything you would like to say regarding the program and the banners?
I have nothing to say.
Okay. The banners have kind of become don't quite know what to do with them.
Since I'll be taking over streets and sidewalks, Janelle, I'll reach out to you so we can get together and I can get some more information for you so we can put something together for the council, okay?
And do you have to live within the city limits to try to become a member on a committee?
What committee are you thinking about?
The streets within.
Yes, yeah, you have to actually be on council and live in the city limits to be on those committees,
Oh.
yes. Zoning, planning, some of the other boards, those type of deals have city, county residents on it split up, so. Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Zimmerman beat me to the suggestion that we put the issue into the Streets Committee to come up with a policy and look at how we move forward with the banners. They will stay up at this point unless something comes up otherwise until the Christmas wreaths go up in late November. And then when the wreaths come down, we will hopefully have something in place by that point. Okay? Are there anyone else have any comments? Any public comments on the agenda items of the labor industry banners? I do think they make the streets look very nice, Janelle. So any other public comments? Okay, seeing no public comments, I'll move on to the public hearing for the variance request. This is the council meeting as the Board of Adjustments. And so we did put out some information reminding you that the Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial board. And so that you could remind yourself about that, those requirements. I'm going to ask Mr. Sykes, who has the information about this variance request, to review it for us.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, and Board of Adjustments, board members. I got a call from Walter in July of this year. Said they were building a fence that was going to be solid within the visibility triangle. I went down to the location, just snapped a few pictures to figure out what's going on. It is indeed out of the rules with the visibility triangle. I got with Mrs. Rhiann Barnes, had her come in. We talked about it. I said that she'd have to put in a variance, which she brought in a very good packet on this. As you can see in here, she goes over all the circumstances with the fence, and then she added in pictures showing the fence that was there previous. On that, you can see where the existing fence did protrude into that visibility triangle. I find that the fence was there, but when you tear it down, any new construction has to be built to the existing standards now. So this fence would be out of whack from that rule, but the Board of Adjustments can allow variances on that.
Okay. Any council questions for Mr. Sykes regarding that? I think you're all familiar
Mrs.
with.
Barnes is-
Yes. I think that you're all familiar with the sightline triangle ordinances and requirements. So if you don't have any questions, Ms. Sykes, I ask Ms. Barnes to come to the podium and make a statement.
Hello, Council and Madam Mayor. My name is Ryan Barnes. I live at 504 Utah Avenue. I purchased my home January 14th of 2022. I moved in May of that year. I have 5 more neighborhood surveys to turn in since I turned in my original packet. I'll start from here. On July 26th, when safety concerns were brought up and I pointed to the stop sign across the street from my fence, Walter Schneider stated, "If you expect us to enforce all of the ordinances in town, we may as well bulldoze everything and start from the beginning." To which I replied, "I just survived a 1 million acre fire 3 years ago. I don't recommend that. It seems, per Mr. Schneider, ordinances should only be enforced according to their latest date." When I got home from my doctor's appointment that afternoon, the tree across the street that was blocking the stop sign was hastily trimmed. It was leaving exposed areas and no pruning sealant was applied. There are also new small branches that are growing again. My new concern is that the tree will get a borer or beetle infection and die, thus causing the city a new and greater problem. This ordinance is discriminatory as it only targets those of us who live on corner lots. Those of you on the city council have decided we do not need or deserve any privacy, though we are visible to all on over 2 sides of our home. And we also live with an alleyway in the back of my home, meaning that there are now 3 sides of my home completely visible to anyone driving by. Privacy is included in the 4th Amendment of the Constitution. This Constitution precedes this ordinance by a few hundred years. I had Bill Avant, owner of B&M Excavators, measure the elevation of the center line of the road nearer 80 foot from the center of the intersection of visibility on Utah Avenue. The crown of this road is 14.5 inches above the elevation of the newly constructed sidewalk, the sidewalk I paid for. The sidewalk is placed where Justin Williams, whose title I do not know, insisted it be placed due to some concern over fill dirt. In comparison to the road elevation at 80 feet, my fence is now 33 inches in height above the elevation of the road. The shortest vehicle, a Corvette, has a measurement of 34 inches to the bottom of its side window. This is still taller than my fence. Since 2009, there have been 0 collisions on the intersection of 5th and Utah. My neighbor Eric Mills has verified this, being he's lived in his home since prior to 2009. I invite each of you, if you haven't already, to please drive by on Utah Avenue and see just how visible the street corner actually is. For these reasons, I ask that you grant my variance for the beautiful and well-constructed fence that all of my neighbors and passers-by have offered much approval, a fence that not only affords me and my family much needed privacy, especially on a corner, but it also provides us a bit of safety as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any council questions? Or, thank you. Where is it?
Questions or comments?
Well, I'm asking the council for questions or comments.
I have comments.
Okay.
I've seen the fence. I've seen the old fence. Yes, it does not meet the current spec, but she replaced the old fence with a fence of equal height. I see 0 problems with this variance.
Okay.
I appreciate Ms. Barnes' comments, and I would just point out that she chose the lot, which is on a corner. Corner lots tend to be larger, knowing that there was an alley and 2 streets. However, in reviewing the provisions by which we are supposed to evaluate variances, 17.36070, I don't know that, I think most all of those can easily be answered to support granting the variance. A, in considering all proposed variances, the board shall first determine that the variance will not amount to a rezone and constitute a change in the district boundaries. This does not. B, the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, such as size, shape, topography, etc. This one is not applicable, in my opinion, but I think the fact that the fence existed previously supports this. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Now, Ms. Barnes continued to build the fence, but as Mr. Taylor said, that's an inside joke that it was a replacement. So it's as a replacement. There wasn't anything special about it. D, granting the variance will not confer any special privilege to subject property that's denied anyone else in the same district. Had Ms. Barnes built this from the ground up, not replacing the fence, I would absolutely agree that this is giving her special privileges, but since it was a replacement to the old fence, I don't think this applies. And that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injuries to the property or improvements in the vicinity. I don't think it will. I live a few blocks from this area. I've not seen any issues. There's a stop sign. If we trim the trees, the stop sign is more visible for all who are supposed to be stopping at 5th Street. F, that we are to make a finding that the reasons set forth in the application justify granting another variance, and I think Ms. Barnes' reasonings in her application do support granting the variance. And G, that we as the board shall further make a finding that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter and not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. And I believe we've had 10 comments from neighbors or something to that effect, supporting the improvements to the property, again, replacing an old fence. So I support granting the variance.
Mr. Smith?
I like the fence. I think it's, I don't see any issues with it.
Okay.
Who installed the new fence for you?
His name is Crazy J Enterprises. Marty Jessup is his name.
Okay. I'm just wondering, when he installed the fence for you, why he didn't, look up and know that there's ordinances for it and didn't install it properly for you? It's kind of my question. I know there's an old fence there, since previous to 2009, but there was, even before we redid and made all the wording the same, there was already ordinances that had triangle sight on corners and stuff. So it isn't a completely new rule that just came into effect last year. It has been on the books for a while. My only concern and worry is if we do grant a variance on it yes, it's at a controlled intersection right now, but somebody up the block who is not in a controlled intersection wants to do the same, then all of a sudden are we going to get requests to put in stop signs on every corner so then everybody else can have what she has? So
I don't think, unless somebody's replacing a fence, and this to me is very much replacement. It's apples to oranges because it's such an improved fence.
but like I said, there was an ordinance on the book. Just because somebody previous to her installed it incorrectly doesn't mean that two wrongs make a right. So
Touche. Well, I don't know how long that fence had been there.
I'm not quite for sure either, because I know growing up down there, there was never a fence in that yard until after we were graduated. So
My guess would be it predates '87.
Yes.
because I graduated in '88. Because one of my best friends' grandma lived there.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted.
I agree. I think it is conflicting. It's a little bit frustrating.
Because to me, her contractor did not do his due diligence.
Correct. Is he licensed in the city?
Check that.
Well, there's currently no requirement to have a building permit for a fence, correct?
There's no building
No,
permit.
but
if
you
it's
still
below-
have to do it by law.
If it's below 6 foot and meets all the standards, you don't need the
Yeah.
permit.
I think you look at the pictures of the old fence, you go look at the new fence, it's a night and day improvement to the neighborhood.
Oh, I'm not going to disagree with that. It's just still, it doesn't make it right. So how do we want to give everybody on a corner the leeway to have a fence that then can take away the visibility and possibly have wrecks? We're supposed to be taking care of the safety of the public. So you say you're trying to weigh things out here. What is correct? What is right?
Ms. Burke?
Do we have accident numbers for that intersection?
Now, when I was looking at it, it's in the visibility triangle. The old one was removed. It's a beautiful fence. And that's where I told her the only way to keep that would be to do a variance. Because if it would have came down to a permit would not have been issued. Boards would have to be replaced or the old fence fixed, just like at 616 Utah where they tore that carport off by the bathroom. We told them, if you tear that down, you can never rebuild it again because it was inside of that 7 foot distance. And that's where we looked at it at that point.
Ms. Burke, did you have a comment?
I agree with what Ms. Smith said and going through the approval section here. And if it improves the neighborhood and makes it look nicer, I think we should allow it.
Okay.
Provided that it's not detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the
Yeah.
property improvements, and I don't think it is.
Okay.
Section E. Sorry.
I'm going to open it up for public comment. Are there any public comments regarding this variance request? Mr. Orr?
Madam Mayor and Council, I'm D.C. Orr. I reside at 1117 Nevada Avenue. I drove by and looked at it. It's a huge improvement to the neighborhood. I see in the packet all the neighbors are thrilled with it. Doesn't present any real problems. It's if you want to see a real traffic issue, come by my house. I'm at 1117 Nevada Avenue. Everybody knows that. I have a neighbor who has a link fence and has allowed a bush to grow in the corner of the link fence that creates a real hazard. He's my neighbor. He sits on the council.
Any other public comments regarding this variance request? Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, bring the conversation back to the council table. Does the council have any other comments to make before we move into making a decision on this request? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. I'm going to do another roll call vote regarding this. Ms. Montalvo?
Okay, Councilor Taylor?
Aye.
Councilor Kristen Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Ian Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Zimmerman?
Nay.
Councilor Burke?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. The variance is granted. So I will, at this point, I will close the public hearing and move on to the regular council agenda, which is the first item of new business. Sorry, is to approve resolution 2041 to authorize submission of the community development block grant application. This is in regards to the First in Montana lift station. Sorry, I'm trying to find my place. Resolution 2041, a resolution of the City Council of Libby, Montana to authorize submission of a CDBG grant application, whereas the City of Libby is applying to the Montana Department of Commerce for financial assistance from the Community Development Block Grant Program to replace the Montana Avenue lift station, and whereas the City of Libby has the legal jurisdiction and authority to construct, finance, operate, and maintain the Montana Avenue lift station. Now therefore, be it resolved that the City of Libby agrees to comply with all applicable parts of Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, which have not been cited herein, as well as with other applicable federal laws and regulations and all state laws and regulations and the requirements described in the CDBG Community and Public Facilities Application Guidelines, and those are described in the CDBG Grant Application Manual, Administration Manual. The City of Libby commits to provide the amount of matching funds as proposed in the CDBG Community and Public Facilities Application. Peggy Williams, Mayor, is authorized to submit this application to the Montana Department of Commerce on behalf of the City of Libby to act on its behalf and to provide additional information as may be required.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2041.
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding the resolution? Okay. Are there any public comments regarding the application, the resolution for application for the CDBG grant? Any public comments? Okay, seeing no other public comments, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2041 has passed. The second part of that is to approve the submission of the Montana CDBG certification for application, and that also is in your packet. And that is the application which I will be signing for submission to the Department of Commerce.
Make a motion we approve Montana CBD certification for application.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions about the application? I think Mike went over the project pretty well 2 weeks ago. So, okay, are there any public comments regarding this application? Public comments regarding the application? I'm seeing no public comments for the application, CDBG application. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The ayes carry. The motion is approved. Brings us to the approve the Forest Service agreement for the Flower Creek Stream Bed Stabilization Project scheduled for 2024. Mr. Williams is going to introduce that project.
Good evening, Council and Madam Mayor. So spring of '23, myself, street foreman, and one of the operators walked this project down with two individuals from the United States Forest Service. It's been identified that we have some bank erosion up there due to the, I guess, the realignment of the creek side, the stream. What that's been doing is it's been undercutting a couple of the corners. They're all clay, so it just undermines it, sloughs in. It's been carrying that bed load down into the lower reservoir. And I think that's been a contributing factor to our capacity in our lower reservoir for water storage. We walked it down, we go over the plan as far as equipment needed and us getting in and out of the project area. There's two areas that have been identified as need, so that would consist of going in and have in mind that this is going to take place probably in August when the creek bed is running extremely low. So we'll be reshaping some of the creek bed. We'll be using some trees that have been identified through the Forest Service that is going to allow us to take those trees and repurpose them in the creek side, or the creek banks alongside the stream itself, to where we can fortify the banks and kind of keep the water from continuing to cut in. And then we're going to reshape. We're going to kind of tilt the creek bed down in one area off of the biggest corner. I think it's about 100 yards long of exposed clay. That's been, like I said, it's been depositing a lot of sediment into the creek. And we're going to then spread, and then we're going to broaden it out a little bit. We're going to kind of slow the water down so we get some of the soils to drop out before it reaches down into our lower reservoir. So we were planning on doing that work this year, this August. That fell short in their department of just getting everything gathered up. They had some documentation that they were still working on getting, but we have it scheduled for this next year to perform that work. So like I said, it's going to be 3 individuals. We're looking at roughly a 2 to 3 week window to perform this work. It's much needed after seeing what it is that they're both hydrologists and understand, what the stream is doing. So it's going to, number one, it's going to take care of the erosion of the bank. So we're not going to have that constant undermining, and we're losing ground, and that ground is ending up in our creek, which is making its way, it's migrating into our lower reservoir. So they definitely a necessity. We're going to work together in performing that work. So that is, I think, a very number one first step in our identifying our shortcoming of sediment control. That's going to basically give us an upper hand on that, and that will be like the first step of upcoming steps to resolve our capacity issues with the lower reservoir. Obviously, it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to take time to get there, but I think this is the first critical step.
And Madam Mayor and Council, this project was actually identified as part of the reconstruction for the dam. It's just been getting bounced back because of the Forest Service not having the manpower or financial ability to do it.
Okay. Yes.
Do you know if this project is eligible for like a categorical exclusion from the NEIS? That would slow it
The
down.
Forest Service is completing all of the granting, permitting, the hydrology studies, and the only thing that we're providing is in kind for wages for the 2 operators. Everything else is covered by grants. After this we're going to put in a monitoring station hopefully next year also, so we can know the rainwater, snowfall, and actual numbers coming into the dam.
Cool.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Williams?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we approve Forest Service agreement for Far Creek Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to open for public comment. Is there any public comment on this joint Forest Service city project? Any public comment? Okay, seeing no further public comment, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of approving this agreement?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The project is approved. Brings us to the approval of the final plat of the T-Box subdivision. Jeremy Fadness from our contract planner and engineer has been, our contract planner has been working with this subdivision. He provided all the paperwork in your packet.
I'll make a motion we grant final plat to the T-Box Estates minor subdivision.
Second.
Are there any questions? Mr.
If I could make one
Sykes?
comment, Madam Mayor, this was part of the new rules that the state came down with for expedited reviews. If you look at it, there's actually the main road there. It's divided into the 3 lots, which meets the requirement for the other 5 lots. Each lot has access to the main road and direct access to water and sewer. And that's what it meets that expedited review, which meant from the time they turned it in with all, and our engineer accepted it, we have 20 days to accept this through there. So this is part of that new last year's referendum that passed.
Okay.
It's kind of ironic though, because they actually submitted the preliminary plan several years ago. It was
Yeah.
stalled.
We do have the surveyor here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to make any comments? If so,
don't have any. Hello. I do want to say one thing. Sam, you did a great job of pushing this thing through. All the phone calls, all the stuff that you did. Sam helped us a lot on getting this thing through. And I know that Krista just mentioned, I'm Ken Davis, so I did turn this thing in many years ago. So, anyway, thank you.
So on the back of it, there were 6 conditions. Subdivision approved with the following conditions, but I assume from the letters and reading the rest of it that all those conditions have been met.
I'm sure they have been.
They have been.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It does not come to the governing body without the conditions being met,
Okay.
so. If that-
I was just trying to
that's
clarify
nature.
that.
Yes.
The supporting documents was to show the council what steps were taken.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So does the council have any other comments or questions? All right, I'll open it for public comment. Are there any public comments on this final plat of the T-Box subdivision? Public comments? Okay, seeing no public comments, all in favor of approval of this final plat?
Aye.
Opposed? Our motion carries. The final plat is approved. Brings us to the approved resolution 2040 local government study permissive levy. When we were doing, well, there was some confusion at both the state and the county level exactly how you were supposed to handle this permissive levy, and so it didn't actually get included with our budget. So the recommendation was finally that we just go back and do a separate resolution, even though it was as part of the vote on the June primary was that if you were approving the study commission, you were also approving that $30,000 budget for the study commission. Okay, but it's been decided that we really need to go back and approve the separate resolution. So a resolution of the City Council of the City of Libby, Montana, setting tax levy for the year 2025 upon all real property in the City of Libby for purpose of government study review and to establish a study commission. Whereas Section 9, Article 11 of the Constitution of the State of Montana requires that each unit of local government shall conduct an election once every 10 years to determine whether the local government will undertake a local government review procedure, and whereas the voters decided for the review of the government of the City of Libby and the establishment and funding of, by a permissive levy not to exceed $30,000 of a local government study commission consisting of 3 members to examine the government of the City of Libby and submit recommendations on the government, and whereas a local government study commission comprised of 3 members shall be elected by acclamation within 20 days after the general election on November 5th, 2024, now therefore be it resolved that establishing and funding for the local government study commission to review the government of the City of Libby shall be funded by a permissive levy not to exceed $30,000 for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, and that amounts to 6 7/20. I left my glasses
Yes.
in the back room.
Yes.
Mills. Okay.
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2040.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments regarding this?
So about what does that amount to for the property owner?
I did not figure that out. I can definitely check into it. It is a good question.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I will open for public comments.
Can I make one
Yes, you may.
statement though?
Yes.
I guess we figure out how many people are in the city and take 30,000 and divide it by that. Sorry.
Property owners, right?
Property owners.
Properties, taxable property
Taxable
units.
properties.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any public comments on resolution number 2040? Any public comments? Okay, seeing no public comments, all in favor of resolution 2040, funding the government study commission?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
that's a nay.
Then the ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. Which brings us to all claims received to date. Did everyone get a chance to look at the claims?
I make a motion, we approve all claims to date.
Okay.
Second.
Were there any questions or comments on the claims? Okay, any public comments on those claims? Any public comments? Then seeing no public comments on the claims, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Claims are approved. Brings us to the business license. Received to date, Star Cleaning Service, a 5-star cleaning service.
Make a motion, we approve all business license received to date.
Second.
Okay, any questions on any of those on this business license? Any public comment on this business license? Public comment? Okay, seeing no other public comment, all in favor of approval of this business license?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. A business license is approved. Brings us to unfinished business, and I'm sorry, despite my best intentions, I didn't make any headway on this discussion for the government, the Libby Development Fund policy.
Sorry, we've already
Mr.
been here 2 hours.
Okay, Mr.
I did receive an email a while back, and I kind of came across it again. I'm going to send it out to all of council, and you guys included. It was from somebody from the community that was reaching out because of some of the work that the Montana West Economic Development does out of Kalispell and how they do things.
Okay.
So I was just going to send out that information so everybody can maybe have a chance to look at it and see if that sparks anything with anybody, I guess.
Okay. Any other comments regarding that item before we move on to general comments and from the council? First thing I'll say is that Dan Clark we're scheduling him for council training on October 29th. That seemed to fit with everybody's schedule the best. So we'll proceed forward with that training. The other item that we wanted to discuss and report on was that Kristen, you and I had a meeting this afternoon with the regional director of the EPA and several people who work with her. Kristen, if you want to give a report on that meeting.
I don't care.
It was quite reassuring. We were very appreciative that they came and spoke with us without some of the other staff that we've really been struggling with at EPA for a number of years. And I think she really was interested in our concerns, took them to heart, and is stated that she's going to work very hard to do that. She's a political appointee, so depending on what happens in the election, there might not be continuity, but there were 2 career staffers there also who planned on continuing to have this.
It went really well. She seemed very open, was unaware of some of our concerns. There's a thing called a technical impracticability waiver that was signed back in the early 90s that the EPA has never reviewed. She assured us that will be reviewed on their 5-year review, which is next year. So it was all bringing stuff to the forehead for the management to know what the employees have been doing.
One of our very fundamental requests is that the EPA help bring IP back to the negotiating table. We have not been able to have a conversation with IP since we refused their very lowball offer in the spring of 21. They've refused to come back and talk to us. We've taken this sideways step with trying to get EPA to help us bring them back to the table. We didn't make any headway with Region 8, so that's when, back in the summer, we finally took the step of going to John Tester. And we've made a little bit of progress since then. So, anything else?
Sounds good. Thank you for the update.
So anybody else have any comments or anything to discuss?
I do.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I recently attended the police commission meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We had this discussion. I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm going to guess about January, that our police commission, that our current employees had not all been through the proper hiring procedure, being vetted by the police commission before being hired, which is part of the MCA requirement. And at that meeting, I was very shocked to find out that one of our current officers still hasn't been through the vetting process. I don't know why that is, where that is, why that's being allowed when the MCA specifically states they're to be vetted before they're hired, and we're 8-9 months down the road and that still has not occurred. I was very shocked at that revelation at that meeting.
Okay. I will reach out to Mr. Chief Erkenbrock and try to get that resolved. So, anything else? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.